There's a saying, beginner's mind. It all involves silence and opening your mind and your senses to things. I feel most that way when I'm by the ocean. You don't know what that wave break is going to look like. It's always beginner's mind. It's always a new thing. I become a lot more aware of just being, of the energy that's inside me and how that is shared with what's outside of me. And I'm talking like the sun and the moon and the stars and all of that. We're all connected and everything is connected. I'm a girl that was born and raised in Hawaii. So when I'm looking at the ocean here, I think of the ocean back home and how it's just all related. We're all swimming in this ocean wherever we are. And so when I think about like how my mind works, it has a lot to do with the ocean and how that connects us and how it keeps moving. There's a lot of information being shared so rapidly now, like so quickly, that we don't even give ourselves the time to really stop and think like, but what does this all mean? We're not tapping into like the deeper knowledge that we have, or we're not giving enough time to ourselves and to our brains to develop that anymore. We have to figure out as humans, like, how are we going to navigate this mindfully? I'm the librarian and digital literacy instructor at the Marillac Academy. We serve 120 students that mostly live in the Tenderloin and neighboring communities. I love when I get to just sit and read with a kid. Books are magical. You open it and it's like a whole other world. So it's nice to inspire that in children and to get them excited about books. Books are still very relevant. I believe they always will be. Reading is power. When I was little, my dad, he read books to me. That's a very clear memory I have, and I'm very grateful that I have that kind of memory with my father. He would always force me to read the newspaper aloud to him. And it wasn't until later that I realized why he felt it was so important for me to read. It's because he had a hard time reading. It was really important that I didn't have to struggle like he did. And so reading actually became like my magical power as a child. As a librarian, I kind of find it my responsibility to connect people to people and people to ideas. Bibliobicicleta started off as a drawing, lots of drawings, lots of sketches of what would the rolling library look like. It became this like imaginary thing we kept talking about. One day, I just got tired of talking about it. Luckily, books and libraries are things that everyone likes, and people love bicycles, and so you put it together, and that's how Bibliobicicleta came to be, and it just keeps evolving. The shelves are different heights because the kids come to the short shelves. You put the more adult things at the top. Librarians always think about where is the eye level of the kids, what's the eye level of the adults, how do I strategically place these books? Free books? I think it's really beautiful that you find Bibliobicicleta in the open air. And it's free. And so I believe in the access as far as what the books bring and the knowledge that opens up. I also get a kick out of seeing neighbors interact with each other and exchanging knowledge that way, because that's learning too. So it's like a person is a book too if you just get to know them and read them. You always learn something new when you open a book. We get to know ourselves a little bit better, and we get to see the world through other people's perspectives as well. Once you read stories that are like yours, that's really empowering. You know, when you recognize yourself in a book, or you read about the past of your people, The interesting thing about indigenous knowledge systems is that they didn't come from a book. Knowledge was passed down orally. Mayan perspectives, or even Native Hawaiians, reading their songs or hearing them, everything reflected the world, like much bigger than we are as humans. There was a bigger awareness of the sun and how we should be grateful for it every day, and we don't know if it's gonna rise tomorrow. There was a bigger focus on maintaining that balance. We take from the earth, but we give back to it and we respect it, because without it, there's no us. When I talk about Mayans and Aztecs, they valued things like the wind coming through their ears as knowledge passing through their minds. They would file their teeth down to make their language sound like the wind. And that's why I like riding bikes too, because you hear the wind, you hear things you wouldn't hear otherwise. It's hard to figure out how to wake ourselves up to that. Even I am guilty as a human being of just sometimes not even thinking about, hey, the sun came up today, or the fact that it rained today. You start to think of, why was it not raining, and what are we doing that is causing that? Knowledge is so beautiful. It's so beautiful and it's so powerful. Once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. So there's no more living in ignorance and in that bliss. It's once you know something, you then have the responsibility to continue knowing it, and you can't ignore it. You have to act on it because you know what's true. We should never, never, ever take knowledge for granted. We should always be seeking it. If we're not seeking it, what makes you human then?